Let's get to the Premier League by starting at the top and say R.I.P. Foxes. Leicester 0, Liverpool 1. A clash of two teams on very different trajectories. One entering the weekend hoping to win the title, the other praying to just avoid relegation. Arsenal's result the match before meant sealing the title, not an option for Liverpool, but in a way they'd already won a trophy this week, Raw. Big Virgil Van Dijk re-signed early Thursday morning, inking a deal until 2027. It was always Liverpool, Big Virg said, quite emotionally, making it clear it was always about the club, never about the reported up to $530,000 a week. So take us there, Raw. Where were you when you heard the news, and did you bawl like a sweet baby?
I was in what you insist on calling an RV, but is in fact a van, on the Dorset coast, Rog. It's great news for Liverpool, I think, because maybe even more so than Salah, I think Virgil kind of is the spiritual leader of that team. And as much as he will start to fade at some point, he won't be able to play at the level he's been playing at for the last few years forever. I think he needs to be around for that switch to whatever comes next. He needs to be able to oversee it, to help give whoever his successor is his advice. It feels important for the team, for the club. And also I think one thing that is interesting about it, I'm not a big transfer guy. I'm not kind of generally of the view that you solve problems with money in football. I think you solve problems with ideas. If I'm Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk, at some point in the contract negotiations, I will ask Richard Hughes and maybe Michael Edwards, the people who oversee these things for Liverpool, what are you planning on doing in the summer? What comes next? And the fact that both have re-signed does make me wonder if Liverpool have got designs on going maybe substantially bigger this summer than we've seen in the last few years.
I think they're buying Beto. That's what it means. And I'll drive him over there with great sadness, obviously. But I do understand sometimes bigger club. Look, I felt for you. Exhale, rejoice. I did read a study. Psychologists have worked out, I think it's like over 90% of the things we worry about in life actually never come to pass. And my reaction when we heard that Big Virg had re-signed, that ultimately gnawing subplot, not even a subplot, like a major thread to the Liverpool season has been worrying about the three lads out of contract. How could you, FSG? And it is fascinating. Mo back, Big Virg back. This is, well, not just one, two of the things we did not need to worry about. The anxiety. We spend so much of our life essentially anxious about things that never come to pass. So I do need to ask you, of the three that could have left, if I offered you two out of the three, are those the one you would have wanted?
Great question, Rog. I would say just on that study, I would say that I worry about 90% fewer things when Virgil van Dijk is on the football pitch. That is the main advantage of having Virgil. If you'd said any two of the three, I'd have been happy. I'm a slightly unusual Liverpool fan, I think, in that I understand why Trent Alexander-Arnold wants to go, and I think that in time it will come to be seen as a totally rational, perfectly understandable decision. It will be sad when Trent goes. It would have been gutting to lose all three. There is something comforting in the continuity, I think, to know that the start of next season, I think there will be change in the summer. You know that an era is closing and a new one is dawning. There is something comforting in knowing that Virgil van Dijk will be stood at the back spraying passes to Mo Salah for another couple of years, and that day of not seeing either of them in a red shirt can be put off for a while. I think that's important. All at once would have been too much to manage.
I too agree, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves because there will be a moment when we'll talk about it in depth. It's very human what I think Trent is possibly going to. He's not Amish, but they have baked into their culture, what is it, Rumspringer, that ritual where you leave the community, hopefully to come back stronger for seeing the outside world. That, I think, wanderlust in non-Amish communities. So I guess... Wanderlust in non-Amish. I don't think Trent... Amish Trent would be an amazing person to meet. But God bless. I too understand exactly why he wants to go. In this game, well, let's talk about him. It was the Trent Alexander-Arnold moment. Leicester, very little life. Almost an inconsequential speed bump in this campaign on the way to the title. Mo Salah went double doink inside 3 minutes. Really wide open in the early exchanges. God bless him, Didi. Hit the post in response, but then Leicester really tried to bog the game down in the sun. I felt sorry for a moment watching 38-year-old Jamie Vardy toil in this one. I've rarely seen a lone striker look more lone. And remember, I watch Everton in good days and bad days. I think this is his 500th appearance at the club. He looks like he's going to go down in the Championship if he stays. To go down this late in a singular career, Raw. All I say is he has a decision to make at the end of this season, whether to stick, to twist, to leave, to go, to whatever. But this is not the way for him. He needs to go out on the lash, right?
Yeah, it felt like a curiously bloodless way for Leicester to be relegated. You understood initially, certainly, that their game plan was they needed to win to stay up. A draw was no good to them. And in reality, they didn't even need to win to stay up. They were, in effect, relegated before kick-off. They've been relegated for a while. I think in years gone by, what you would have seen in those circumstances would have been a team raging against the dying of the light. They would have wanted to say, this is our last stand. We are going to take on one of the Premier League behemoths. We are going to, give a really good account of ourselves. And what you got from Leicester instead was this sort of stasis. And I played football this morning, Rog, and a mate of mine, Chris, who's a Spurs fan, who's playing central defence alongside me until I wandered up front. He said his view of the game yesterday was very much that Liverpool kind of toiled against Leicester. I think they did toil, but they also created a load of chances. And apart from that Ndidi effort early on and a couple late on from Buonanotte, Leicester created nothing. And for a team that was on the verge of going down, that, as you say, had one of the great characters in the Premier League soap opera leading the line, who barely touched the ball, it felt limp and insipid and a little bit, not cowardly's too strong, but quite sorrowful, quite sad, really, to watch Leicester go down like that. Yeah. And it would, you're right, it wouldn't even be an anticlimactic ending for Jamie Vardy. It's kind of a non sequitur, because that is not who Vardy is. That's not what he's built his career on. He's this guy who clawed his way up from non-league to win a Premier League title, to play for England, to have like an outsized role in the Premier League kind of firmament. You wonder whether maybe he now does start to think that he needs a different last act.
Oh, God, welcome to Cincinnati, Jamie Vardy. Got to say, we interviewed him early in the season and he talked about being a chaos merchant, a chaos. I mean, it was so lovely hearing him. There was no chaos. There's been no chaos about this whole season. I think not one red card Gary Neville was talking about in the comms all season. No fight, no anything. Rog van Nistelrooy, God bless, one of the strangest cameo management regimes I've seen in the Premier League, where the only team he could beat was Leicester City, which is why they hired him. And then he won just 8 points out of 19 fixtures. Was really a very good manager, but only for his opponents. And it felt a matter of not if, but really just when. For Liverpool Football Club, and that when happened just past the 70th minute. Trent Alexander-Arnold came on after 4 games out with ankle knack. A bit of a mixed reception, if we're being honest, but the travelling fans quickly roused themselves, did a quick Scouser in the team chant. By the way, Raw, when Trent came on, I wrote in my game notes, I wrote, God, I want Trent to score so badly, just so we can find out if there's a rule for professional footballers whether you shouldn't celebrate when you score a goal for your old team.
For your soon-to-be former club.
Yeah, you do a bit of that. But blew me down. We did find out, because within 5 minutes, slop in the box, more double-doink chaos, Salah and Jota hitting the frame, and then the ball came out to Trent, who went all Elvis Costello. His aim is true. First goal ever with his left foot through the keeper, and Raw. Watching him rip off his shirt and flex, just nipples brazenly out in front of the Liverpool fans. What it must have felt like for him to trot onto the field amidst all the swirl, all the tumult, all that anger, to be honest, and within 5 minutes deliver a winner that sends your club within 3 points of winning the title. Trent's goal celebrations this season have all been deconstructed, analysed. It wasn't clear to me, and I'd love to hear from you. What was he doing? Was he venting anger? Was it passion? Was he celebrating with the fans or at the fans? Was he trying to reconnect or distance? Leave his shirt on the corner flag, say, this is yours now, just remember this, without the body in it. I mean, this one will be analysed like a Zapruder film.
That's a lovely way of thinking of the shirt on the corner flag. Remember this, not the person who occupied it. The reality of it's complicated slightly by the fact that Trent didn't put his shirt there. So if you watch the celebration again, he rips it off. as Gary Neville rather joylessly said, in this moment where Liverpool had scored the goal that brings them to within a breath of the title. This homegrown kid, as you say, the guy at the centre of this contract standoff, who's probably leaving one of his final games for Liverpool. This incredible drama unfolding, and Gary Neville, he rips off his shirt, and Gary Neville on the British commentary went, "Well, he's taking the booking," and you're a bit like, Gary, that's not the point. No one cares about the booking. Who cares if he gets booked? It's not interesting.
It's like that, taking the booking is like probably the only practical down thing you could say, other than that shirt soon to be 30% off at the club shop.
Well, the other one, I can't remember if it was Neville or Peter Drury, the commentator, and Peter is too joyful a man to have said this. They did point out when the replays were showing that Mads Hermansen probably should have saved it. And again, you think, well, maybe not quite the story here, like goalkeeping error.
Yeah. Do we understand nothing about theatre?
But I think what happened was Trent takes the shirt off, throws it in the air, and I think Kostas Tsimikas picks it up and puts it on the corner flag, and Alexis McAllister kind of straightens it out so that you can see the name. That, I think, is as interesting as what Trent meant by it.
Well, that's incredible. It's almost like they trained for that. That's teamwork. That's slot ball there.
That is the level to which Liverpool...
I am now getting... Who's coming in with the steamer? Probably Endo coming in with the steamer. Shh.
Just, yeah. Darwin Núñez appears just to pair it with some lovely trousers.
Yeah, Chiesa. I just put some pleats in, sew some pleats into the bottom.
With these, you need a nice chino. So I think there's been an attempt to read a lot into it. That just the reality of that those few seconds can't kind of bear that sort of scrutiny. I think for Trent, what would have been central to that celebration, that venting of emotion, was that he is going to leave. He's going to leave Liverpool. He's going to go and play for Real Madrid. There are reasons for that I think are completely valid, and that I think in their heart of hearts a lot of Liverpool fans will accept are valid. I think it's incredibly important to remember that he is a Liverpool fan, that he has been one of the greats of this Liverpool team. He will go down, I would say, as Liverpool's finest ever right back. Again, maybe I'm unusual. I'd love him to come back from Real Madrid in 3 or 4 years and play for Liverpool again. I think that would be a more than...
Rumspringa.
Yeah, exactly, a Rumspringa approach. I think for Trent to have that moment to contribute one of the crucial goals in clinching the title will be incredibly important to him on a personal level. And I think that is what that celebration was about, that he wanted that chance to say, I contributed.
I will say that, God, you cannot. Sometimes football is that, like movies or like theatre, but so much better to have. How do you cast Big Virg scoring last week and then kissing his badge and then re-signing? It had to be Trent in many ways. If you were a scriptwriter this week, and you could joke his goal was the biggest win for Real Madrid all week, but it did show, as you say. I mean, I watched it neutrally. Yes, an Everton fan, so dead inside. But, I've watched the mate or traitor signs posted around, Anfield. I looked at it, the roar towards the away supporters. I looked at it, as you've just said, he's still passionate about this team. Yes, the shirt, we've done it already. It is like the most analysed garment since the Shroud of Turin. And I believe ultimately what you want to see, it's one of those incredible things. What you want to see is probably what you want to believe in this moment. His post-match interview, when he was pretty tight-lipped, muttering, I've said all season, I'm not going to speak on my situation, I'm not going to go into the details. I say from a neutral POV, a dead inside Everton fan POV, doesn't sound that positive. From a perspective, does it, Raw? The rumour mill is in overdrive. Could he have had a change of heart? Do you think watching Real Madrid being duffed up by Arsenal gave him like buyer's remorse? Raw, quickly, is there any chance he could stay in your mind, knowing what you know as a professional coverer of the game?
No. I mean, is there a chance he could change his mind? Yeah, probably. I don't know if anything's been signed. But I think in all reality, looking at the countless versions of this story that have played out elsewhere, no, he's gone. He's going to sign for Real Madrid. And to be honest, on a professional level, I think it makes perfect sense. And I think the reaction has been totally... I don't know if we've discussed this before, Rog, but I think it's hit a nerve with Liverpool fans because of the perception that it is a club that has to sell to buy, that has to bring in, it has to wash its own face in terms of finances, which it feels a bit like it's a double betrayal. Because not only are you going, but you're going and denying Liverpool a transfer fee to buy your replacement. Liverpool don't need a transfer fee to buy a replacement. They've got one already. Conor Bradley will be Liverpool's first choice right back next season. I think leaving that aside, it's really easy to understand what Trent wants to do and why he wants to go and the club he wants to go to. I think it takes an almost sort of obstinate denial of reality to understand that.
God, I will say Rumspringa, again, I'm not a big Sting fan, but I think if you love someone, set them free in these moments. I love your notion that he could still come back. Look, his narrative is so powerful. It's the hero's narrative, the young kid who watched through a hole in the wall Stevie Gerrard and that era Liverpool team toil towards the title with their dreams. He looked at it like a 6-year-old, 7-year-old. I mean, it's almost Star Warsian, and he was the one that was part of that team that delivered glory. You don't want to let that narrative go emotionally. I also understand that. But Godspeed. We'll talk more about Trent when he makes a decision, which I hope is very soon, because that narrative going on post-win is I mean, there's no great time to break this news. To some degree, you just got to rip the Band-Aid off. Leicester City we've covered. You've talked about them. I agree. Second time in 3 years they're relegated. This was a miserable season. I mean, essentially it was footballing surrender. They were in a knife fight and they didn't even clench a fist. Fans flying planes over, asking the board to leave. Watching 9 games at home without a bloody goal. And going back to, is it December? Is miserable footballing experience. Never ready for this. So we'll put them aside. Liverpool, you're Liverpool. They'll win the title now, either with an Arsenal loss against Palace midweek or a win against Dr. Tottenham at Anfield next Sunday. Spurs team, they've already played 3 times this season in 2 competitions. I think they've won twice, outscored them. Is it 10-4? If I was a Spurs fan, I'd be slightly Ralph Wigging me, chuckling, I'm in danger, as they prep for that trip up north. And again, 98% of me is Everton fan. I know I'm meant to hate this. The 2% that's human is happy for you, Raw, in that asterisk season when, you know, the title was raised in the pandemic, the odd fanless trophy lift. I do think there's a beauty and human goodness in this moment for you, or at least I hope there is, because right now in our world those emotions are in all too short supply.
Yeah, it's been a slightly strange one because it's been so telegraphed. It's been obvious. I think, obviously, I have only just accepted that Liverpool might win the league, Rog, you know that, but I think from the outside, to people who are less coolly rational than me, it has been obvious probably since Arsenal lost at home to West Ham that Liverpool had it in their hands, and when they came through that run of games late February, early March, with their lead extended, it became really clear that this was going to be Liverpool's season. And although they haven't been particularly impressive in terms of performances since the start of April, their form is far better than anybody else's at that end of the table. They have by some distance been the best team in England this season. It is a fully deserved title. But because it's been so obvious for so long that they're going to win it, it does feel as though there's a bit less fanfare than there might be. Just because after a while you run out of things to say, hopefully from a fan perspective, but also I think from a kind of football lover's perspective, when Liverpool's moment comes, and trust me, you learn not to be picky, so if it's without kicking a ball because Arsenal lose to Palace, that's fine. It would be better if it was against Spurs next Sunday so that the fans can celebrate it together. Hopefully at that point Liverpool get the laurels they deserve, because they have been by some distance the best team in the country, and they are more than deserving champions. God
bless. Next week, hear it here first. 3-0 win against Tottenham. Darwin Núñez with a hat-trick, walking towards the Kop, whipping off his shorts, free-balling it, wondering why. McAllister's coming nowhere near his shorts whatsoever. Put them on the corner flag. Give me the trip. Lads, you're on your own, Darwin, baby.